This is the Insta360 X3, but this is the Insta360 X4. So obviously what I'm going to be doing in this video is comparing the brand new Insta360 X4 to the older X3. The X4, for a start, 8K, finally, 8K video in a consumer 360 camera. Now, I've done a lot of side-by-side shots with these in many locations, and let me tell you that the 8K does make a difference. It's not just some, I don't know, software-driven thing. It definitely, side-by-side, the 8K from the X4 looks a lot better. This is really approaching now where 360 cameras are catching up with normal action cameras in terms of quality. When you reframe the 8K, it looks a lot better than the reframed 5K from the X3, but we'll get into more of that later because I'm going to take you through every difference between these two cameras, including the hardware, the software, what's changed, what's new, what's better, what's worse, because, you know, nothing's perfect. I'm not trying to sell you the camera, but let's just see what every difference between these two cameras are. And I'll be doing more videos on the X4 in the next week or so, pretty much releasing one every day, so subscribe if you want to hear more about the X4, but let's get into it right now. Let's get straight into talking about the video quality and that 8K video compared to the 5.7K, because I know that's really what you are thinking about. So yes, the max resolution of the Insta360 X4 is 8K at 30 frames per second versus the X3's 5K at 30 frames per second. So this is quite a big boost, and you'll see later, or I can show you some examples here, that the 8K versus 5.7K really does make a difference. But resolution isn't everything, and I think actually a even bigger advantage is the X4 can shoot 5.7K at 60 frames per second. This is something I've been hoping for a long time. Being able to shoot at this resolution at 60 frames per second not only will be amazing for action shots, 60 frames per second is often the preferred frame rate to shoot in, but also we can slow down our footage and not lose so much quality. So we can have some reasonably high quality 360 and slow motion combined, which I think is the holy grail. I think it's going to allow us to create some awesome content. You can also shoot 4K at 100 frames per second in the X4 compared to 3K at 100 frames per second on the X3. Once again, being able to shoot even more slow motion, and even with 4K, it looks pretty good. Now let's take a look at some more video comparisons with these two cameras, starting off with the 8K versus the 5K, so the max resolution of both cameras. We can definitely see a difference. I have been out shooting with these cameras at the same time, so you can see exactly what the difference is. I think it's pretty obvious that the 8K is better, which is not surprising. Previously, cameras from Insta360, I think the last 3 generations, have all been limited to 5.7K. There have been some improvements in the image processing or the addition of HDR, but it's kind of tinkering around the edges. It has really been limited. But now with this 8K, it really does make quite a big difference. Now, is it as good as, say, a GoPro, a single lens camera, or your phone? No, it's still going to be limited. It's still a 360 image, and those pixels are still spread around a full 360 degrees field of view rather than, say, 180 or 200 degrees. So the pixels are still a bit more spread out, but I think the quality is still a lot better. Or now, once again, shooting in daylight or in a place where there's lots of light is going to be the best way to use either of these cameras, including the X4. The X4 still in nighttime doesn't perform as well. You can go in and adjust some manual settings to make it a little bit better, but I still think both of these cameras do tend to struggle in low light conditions. However, looking at side by side, the X4 does perform better in low light situations. Perhaps there's better image video processing, perhaps the sensor technology is slightly different, but there is definitely a slight improvement, but just not as drastic as when shooting in the day. So the 8K in the X4 is good. It's much better. It's definitely an improvement, and we've been waiting for this for a long time. However, the downside is shooting in 8K takes up a lot of battery life, and there's more chance of overheating the camera. Now, I've been shooting with this for a couple of weeks, and the longest video I've shot is about I think 10 minutes with the X4 in the 8K mode, and it didn't overheat. So we'll see what the limits are, but basically there may be situations where you prefer to shoot at 5.7K. So let's take a look at some comparisons with both cameras in the 5.7K mode. Now, like I mentioned, the X4 can shoot 5.7K at 60 frames per second and at 30 at 25-24. If you select the 60 frames per second, you will notice that the video looks a lot smoother, the movements are more fluid, there's not as much motion blur. Now, this is why the 60 frames per second will be a lot better used in action shots like skiing, snowboarding, cycling, motorcycling, anything with a lot of fast moving action where you don't necessarily want that motion blur. The 60 frames per second is going to be super useful. Or if you want to slow down your footage, you can make some cool slow motion shots as well. But even if we're just looking at the video quality, even if we select the same frame rate, so that's 5.7K, 30 frames per second, both of these cameras, the X4 still looks better. So it's not just the resolution, there must be some improvement in the sensor lens technology or the image processing. Maybe there's some chips in there that are doing some work to make the video look better, but even selecting the same resolution, the X4 still outperforms the X3. So a lot of these shots have been fairly still. I've not been doing much action stuff. I just think for these kind of videos, it's good to see what we're dealing with a side-by-side, so you can zoom in on the details, have a look, and we'll see what the quality is. But I have also shot some moving shots. The stabilization in both of these cameras is just the same, really. I mean, it's amazing. These are probably the best cameras for fast-moving action shots. So just looking at these side-by-side shots, I think we can agree that the 8K does make a difference. But just like the X3, the X4 is able to use one of the lenses, either one of these, to shoot single lens video. So that's non-360 video, flat video, just using one of these lenses. So it makes the camera a 2-in-1 camera. They have also upgraded the resolution and frame rate options in the single lens mode. You can shoot 4K at 60 frames per second with the X4, whereas the limit for the X3 was 4K at 30 frames per second. Once again, this will be awesome for attaching to a bike or a POV shot, if you want to get those extra frames for either slow motion or to create that smooth effect. And once again, even side by side with the same resolution, the X4 still outperforming the X3. It still looks better. I've not done any editing in any of these shots. This is just straight out of the camera on both in both cases. So in terms of video quality, it's upgraded across the board. Now, you'll remember with the X3, there was also an introduction to a mode called Me Mode, which is actually really useful. You attach your camera to a selfie stick, extend it to at least I guess 3 or 4 foot or a meter or 2 away from your body, and you just start recording. The camera will automatically lock onto you and you'll be in the center of the frame the whole time, so there's no editing needed. This was great for vlogging, for if you were doing action shots once again and you didn't want to have to worry about the rather complicated editing. Now the X4, the Me Mode resolution has been upgraded quite a lot from 1080p in the X3 to 4K in the X4. Now that is a big leap and you can see the difference here. And this Me Mode I think was limited before because the quality was quite low. But with the 4K, it's definitely a big leap, and I think this is going to actually now be a really useful feature from this camera. Another upgrade for Me Mode in the X4 is that it can shoot 2.7K resolution in this mode at 120 frames per second. So that's super slow motion, and I think it looks really good. Now, obviously, still lower resolution, but still higher than the previous, the X3, and this 120 frames per second is the best slow motion option in the whole camera. I think this would be great if you were skiing or snowboarding because it will be very bright, so there's a lot of light for the camera to capture the best quality. And yeah, you're going to be able to capture some really awesome slow motion shots without having to worry about much editing. In terms of the other video options, because like the X3, the X4 has quite a few video options. We've got the loop recording, time-lapse, Timeshift. I think there's a few more, but in terms of those, there are some other upgrades as well. For a start, time-lapse, which I think is a really awesome use of 360 cameras. Starting with the time-lapse mode with the X4 is now 11K. Now that's huge. That's a huge resolution. And it's really good quality, guys. I think this is really an underused feature of all 360 cameras, combining a time-lapse with the reframing. creates an awesome looking video. But with the X4, it's upgraded to 11K, whereas the X3 could shoot time lapses in 8K, which was still pretty decent. Timeshift, which is kind of a moving time lapse, and you can see what it looks like here, in the X4 was limited to 5.7K, and in the X4 is now boosted to 8K. So again, quite a big jump in terms of video resolution and quality, and the difference is visible. The time shifts are some of the easiest ways to create some really unique dynamic shots, which will have your friends wondering, like, how did you shoot that? Like, I've had a lot of questions when I show videos, when I show time shift videos to my friends, or online or Instagram, people ask me, did that take a long time to shoot? Finally, for the video options, the final boost, the final upgrade is bullet time. Now, if you have used Insta360 cameras before, bullet time is where you attach to a bullet time handle, you raise it above your head and you spin the camera around for about 10 or 15 seconds, and it creates these kind of Matrix-like effects. They call it bullet time, I think, from the Matrix, and they can look really good. However, previously the resolution has been really limited, so it looked really, I guess, pixelated. The max resolution and frame rate for bullet time in the X3 was 4K at 120 frames or 3K at 180 frames per second. Now in the X4 you have 5.7K at 120 or 3K at 240, which is super slow motion. And this is really the first time where I think these bullet time shots are actually worth doing. Okay, that's a lot. I mean, there are a lot of changes, honestly. This is definitely the biggest upgrade for a Insta360 camera through their whole range. But yeah, let's get into some more. There are some more things that are different between these two cameras. So going into photos, if you are into 360 photography, there have been a few updates, but it's not as drastic. Both cameras can shoot 72 megapixel 360 images. However, the X4 has in-camera pure shot processing. So that is a kind of AI automatic upgrade. It just combines several images together, makes your images look more dynamic. Before, that had to be done in a post-processing. With the X3, you had to use the Insta360 Studio or the app, but now it's done inside the camera, so it just saves some editing time. Remember, you can also reframe your 360 images, so you can have these moving images, which could be used for Instagram, turn your images into a video, which can lead to more reach, at least on Instagram and TikTok. Now, one of the main issues with Insta360 cameras has been how vulnerable they are. It's quite easily to break them. If you drop them from somewhere, the lenses are easily broken and it's quite expensive or takes quite a long time to replace the lenses. However, Insta360 in the box with the X4 now include these. They are removable lens guards. They are able to protect your camera or, damage. Should you drop your camera, these will protect the lenses. Now, these come in the box with the X4. You don't have to buy them separately. And that was not the case with the X3. You had to buy them separately. Also with the X4, they've redesigned how you attach the lens guards. They are very easily removable. They are not stuck on. You don't have to pry them off. You literally just pop them on top. There is a kind of little guide, a little blue kind of dot. You simply turn them around, wait till you feel that click, and that's it. They're on. And if you want to remove them, just do the same. Just apply a little bit of pressure, twist, and they'll pop off. So that is quite a big, I guess, an upgrade, but it's something to address the issue of vulnerability. There's also premium lens guards, which are glass. The ones they provide you with are plastic and will reduce the quality, I think, a little, and you'll have to make sure that they are perfectly clean, free from any fingerprints. But if you're doing something where there's quite a good chance that they might get damaged, definitely worth using these lens guards, and it's great that they're included in the box. So let's just take a look at, I guess, the design differences. There's not a huge difference here, but obviously comparing the two side by side, the X4 is bigger, it's thicker, and it's a little bit heavier. Now, that is not ideal before an action camera. Let's face it, you want it to be as small and light as possible. But the justification for the extra size is that the X4 has a much better battery. And it really is a lot better, 67% longer runtime than the X3. However, if you do use the 8K, then that is still reduced. So I guess that's part of the sacrifice for having 8K. We need a bigger battery and a bigger camera. I haven't found any issues with mounting the camera to anything. It's not too heavy to be an action camera. Overall, the size difference hasn't been an issue for me so far. Maybe if you are attaching it to a very long selfie stick, one of the long ones, it may cause a little bit more of a bend. But apart from that, I don't see a problem. The overall design is practically the same with this kind of candy bar shape, the two lenses at the top, the removable battery at the side, and the mount at the bottom for attaching to any kind of accessory. Now, the mount actually did seem to change a little bit. I'm not sure if this little groove in there was designed to improve the connectivity to your mounts. I guess the only other thing is a slightly more rugged design with this kind of grip at the front, and also a bigger touch screen, just slightly bigger touch screen, so I guess a little bit easier to control and manipulate those settings. So in terms of design, I think that is the one drawback of the X4. It's definitely a bigger device, which is not ideal for action cameras, but I think considering all of the other upgrades we get, it's worth, what is it, like half an inch bigger and less than half an inch thicker. So I think for having 8K and all those other things, it's worth it. Another interesting usability upgrade is the AI gesture control, which I've actually found pretty useful in my tests. With the X4, you can select the AI gesture control to be turned on in the settings, and then when you want to start recording, you literally raise your hand up to the camera lens, and that will activate the self timer to start recording video. If you want to shoot a photo, you do the peace sign. Once again, into one of the lenses of the camera, and it will start the countdown. And I think the final upgrade that I can see from my use is that transfer speed has also been upgraded. Well, for example, the X4 has USB-C Type 3, whereas the X3 had USB-C Type 2. So plugging in your camera physically will now result in faster transfer speeds, but also Wi-Fi transmission speed has been increased, let me see what they say, by 58% according to Insta360. I haven't actually timed it myself, but I have noticed a faster transfer when using my phone when connecting wirelessly to the app. In terms of software, they both use the same software, the Insta360 Studio, which has recently been updated to add lots of features like transitions, music, text. You can combine many videos together, so that's quite a big upgrade. Also uses the same app and all of those shot lab effects and the video editor. So both of the cameras have access to the same editing software, which are both free. So yeah, there's no change there. I guess the only final thing to think about is the price, which obviously very important. And yes, the X4 is more expensive. The X3, I think, has just had recently a price cut, which was, I guess, kind of a clue that the new camera was coming. But the X3 is $399. In pounds and euros, it's not much different from dollars, unfortunately. The X4 is $499, so $100 more expensive. Now, for the price, it is an expensive camera. Let's not beat around the bush. I can't think of any other camera, 360 or not 360, that can do so much stuff. And now with 8K, it really does look good. Not even just on the phone, on my laptop, it looks good. I haven't put it on a TV or anything like that, but in my quite larger screen laptop, this is the first time I've shot with Insta360 cameras where the video looks good on a larger screen. You can now reframe from 8K into 4K. I think this is going to be the one to beat for the next few years. Let's see what the other companies come up with. GoPro has an answer to this, but so far, just comparing these two, obviously the X4 is better. I mean, it's a lot better. So I made a whole video course teaching you how to create awesome, unique shots with your Insta360 cameras. Now, this will be updated for the X4, but all of these shots are still possible with both cameras. But with the X4, it's going to be much higher quality. By the way, if you are interested in that video course, see a discount code in celebration of the X4. I made a discount for my video course. If you wanted a cheaper option, I believe Insta360 is going to still sell the X3 as kind of a lower price point, a beginner option, if you will. The X3 is still a great option, and I think it will be for the next few years. You can still create some awesome content with that camera as well. But yeah, guys, I guess that's it. That is my rundown of all of the differences between the Insta360 X4 and the Insta360 X3. This is always the first video I do when cameras come out. I think it's really important to see what the upgrade is, because I know that there's going to be loads of videos you're going to see about this camera probably today and then the next few days. So, you know, I think it's really important to get a lowdown of what the exact differences are before you make any decision. I've got videos from the X4 coming up literally one a day every day for the next week, including a compilation of all my favorite shots I've shot in the last few weeks with no talking, just videos shot with the X4, reframes from 8K to 4K, so you can really see if the video quality is matching up to what you expect. But until then, guys, I'll see you around. Bye.